Welcome to the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not a death sentence, yet a rite of passage to a higher level of tolerance. Stay with us and come out of the darkness as your host, Carl Waggett, shines a light on this very misunderstood disorder.
Welcome to PTSD, Bunker Gear for Your Brain. I'm your host, Carl Waggett, and welcome to episode 285. Guys, if this is the first time you've ever found us, it's very nice to meet you. My name is Carl, and this is a podcast about post-traumatic stress disorder. But guys, listen, we don't get up all in your cage in this show. Nah, we don't get medical at all. You know, we kind of look at things through the eyes of the emergency services, which is police, fire, ambulance, and dispatch, as well as correctionals and Coast Guard. And guys, I think it goes without saying military, right? But you know what, guys? If you don't fall into those lines of work, hey, it doesn't mean you have to leave the podcast. No, this is a wicked cool subject. I'm glad you found us. Please pull up a beanbag chair and enjoy the show. Now, for those of you who do join in from time to time, it's so great to see you once again. Shall we get on with the show? Well, listen, guys, before we start, I got a really big announcement. Yes, that's right. Bunker Gear for Your Brain, well, it's found a bit of a home south of the border, hasn't it? Yes, that's right. You know, my good buddy Shane from Speaking to the Heart Radio Network had to listen to the show and went, you know what, Wags? I want more people to hear this. And I said, you know what, Shane? I like the cut of your jib, sir. So you know what we did? We kind of got together, and now Shane's pushing this show out to all kinds of people south of the border. So you know what? So tip of the hat to Shane from Speaking to the Heart Radio Network for, well, you know what? Letting us jump on board and hopefully reaching a few other people. So anyways, guys, let's get on with the show, because you know what? I'm really excited about this show. We're kind of playing off last week's show where we were talking about this whole New Year's resolution. Yeah, you know, we kind of talked about this and some more productive ways to kind of go up against this stuff instead of just, you know, the old traditional crossing the fingers and hoping for good shit to happen, right? No. We're actually trying to figure out the best way to implement change in our life. Because, guys, look, if there's one thing that we have truly learned with PTSD, depression, anxiety, is when this stuff comes to stay at your house, dude, you need a change. You know what I mean? Like, something has to change because, well, let's be honest, PTSD, depression, anxiety does not bring exactly happy times to our life. If we actually understand how we can change, we can kind of get off this railroad track that we just can't seem to jump off of. You know what I mean? So, guys, what are we going to talk about in this particular week? Well, instead of the kind of Jedi mind tricks that we talked about last week, guys, we're going to talk about the brain. Yeah, that thing that sits up on your shoulders. Because I'll tell you what, the sooner you understand how this little muscle works, dude, life gets so much easier. Now, look, guys, let's take me, for instance, okay? Look, when I first started with this whole PTSD, depression, anxiety, look, I was at a real disadvantage. You want to know why? I thought it was all crap. Yeah, I did. I thought this whole mental health injury thing, look, it was just a way to get the summer off. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you'd go to your captain and say, look, Cap, I'm having some bad dreams about a call I had. And you know what? You would get June and July off. So unfortunately, I was raised in a house where, you know what, if something hurts, well, you rub dirt on it and you just kind of get through it. Well, unfortunately, you start to understand that, guys, if your brain starts to get a little confused with the information it's taking in, this can make our lives more than interesting. Trust me, this is something that I found. So what I really want to do in this particular episode was, well, kind of bring my story to the table, right? Because I think the thing is that there is an enormous amount of frustration that comes with any kind of mental health. You know what I mean? For the simple reason, guys, it's confusing. You know, and if you take an individual and they become confused, well, that's usually when frustration shows up to the party. And this is exactly what happened to me. Because, look, I went tickety-boo my whole life without any difficulties. You know what? Okay, maybe Carl was a little different than the masses, I must admit. You know what I mean? But as far as everything was going along in life, you know, everything seemed to make sense. But when this PTSD, depression, anxiety showed up to the table, I started to find that I was doing things that, well, I didn't necessarily agree with. And you know what? I'd fight to the death if anybody asked me about it, and I was able to justify all my actions. But when the house went quiet and I was by myself, there was a lot of shit in my life that I didn't like. You know, we've talked about this PTSD, depression, anxiety, that sometimes, you know, other things will piggyback on it. You know what I'm talking about? Like, let's take insomnia, for instance, okay? That's one of the major calling cards for post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, you know, the thing that I found with insomnia was there was a really quick fix to that, and it was called drinking. Yes, you know what? I wouldn't recommend it, ladies and gentlemen. Alcohol, it doesn't solve too many problems. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think there's too many problems it does solve. Well, maybe if you're trying to fight infection. You know what I mean? You rub alcohol on something to sterilize it. But trust me, if you're pouring it down your gob, not too many good things come from this. And this is what I found. So the thing is that, okay, I snuggled up next to alcohol because, well, let's be honest, it allowed me to sleep. I felt like crap in the morning, don't get me wrong. But the fact is I was able to sleep. But the problem is alcohol brings a whole whack of other problems to the table. Yeah, and you know, it didn't take very long before I realized this. Look, never mind the argumentative nature that seemed to come with me in alcohol, because I don't know what it is. You pour a little red wine on me, and I'll tell you what, I'll find an argument with something. Yeah, I got really, really bad for it. So, you know, I started to find that, you know what, maybe social functions weren't the best for Wags to go to when he was drinking. And look, this is when isolation came to the party. So you can really understand how this stuff starts to manifest. Well, the thing is I started to notice these negative changes in my life. And I was like, okay, that's it. You know what? I'm changing this. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this drinking thing, it costs a lot of money for one thing. Look, not a lot of people talk about that, but holy shit, can it clear out your bank account in a hurry? But not only that, I didn't like who I was becoming. Okay. Yeah, you know, I snuggled up to this alcohol because it helped me sleep. Okay, that's fine. But you know what? I was an absolute bear in the morning because, well, I was hungover. Yeah, no, I didn't feel good. So guess what my mannerism was with people? Not good. Yes, Carl was a bit of an asshole for a while because, well, quite frankly, every single morning I was hungover. And look, I'll tell you what, you drink on a constant basis, it affects your health. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, you know what, you don't feel good. You know what I mean? You know, you may feel good when you're drinking, but the problem is you feel like shit when you're not. Yeah, it's really, really scary when it gets to that. So anyways, long and short of it is, I started to realize that this road leads nowhere. Okay? Look, it doesn't matter if I'm able to sleep or not. Look, I got to quit this drinking thing. This is ridiculous, right? And then I started to find that, you know what? This wasn't the easiest thing to just quit. Now, this was confusing for me because, guys, look, I drank like a fish in college. Oh, look, being a Canadian going down to the States on a golf scholarship, okay, beer was cheaper than anything I'd ever seen. I think it was like $10 for a case of Natty Light. It was incredible. Oh, man, I can't even say Natty Light without getting the shits now. I drank so much of it in college, but the interesting thing in college was when I wasn't drinking, I didn't think about drinking. Yeah, so it was really this kind of cool deal where I could drink my face off, and then when I wasn't drinking, I would go a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks without a drink and not even think about it. But now, when I find myself in my late 30s, early 40s, I couldn't seem to stop it. You know what I mean? Or when I wasn't drinking, I thought about it all the time. Well, anyways, I had this bit of epiphany that happened. And look, this was a story that I shared with a buddy of mine, but I've never actually shared it publicly. So you'll have to be patient with me because, guys, it's not the easiest story to tell. You know what I mean? Well, anyways, you know what? As most nights, you know, by 11:30, Carl's absolutely pie-eyed. You know, just completely smashed. And not the fun kind of smashed where you're kind of laughing and joking and giggling. No, this is just where you're kind of sat on the couch and staring at the TV. Yeah, that kind of wrecked, right? So anyways, you know what? I finally peel myself off the couch as I do most nights. And, you know, I gave myself the same speech as I'm walking up the stairs. Ugh, Carl, you got to stop this shit. Like, seriously, this is no good. I think I was like 36 at the time, 37. And I'm thinking, buddy, you do this for 40 years and this is not going to play out well for you. So anyways, while I'm saying all this, well, I've got a glass of wine in my hand, and I've got the wine in a glass that you would pour fruit juice in. You know, the tall glasses, you know what I mean? It's not exactly something you pour red wine in, not very sophisticated at all, but you know what? In those days, hey, listen, if it held wine, I drank out of it, right? So anyways, it was one of those clear glasses, and you know, while I'm giving myself the speech, I'm holding this glass of wine in my hand, walking up to bed. I'm thinking, you're a fucking mess, Waggett. Like, seriously, this is not good. So anyways, I go upstairs. I take the glass of wine as I'm getting into bed, you know, to kind of look at my phone or whatever. And I put the glass on this coaster that I have next to my bed. Now, the interesting thing about this is my ex-wife, she got these coasters made of our kids. I mean, maybe you've seen them. You know, you take a picture of your kid and it's a coaster, right? Pretty basic shit, right? Well, anyways, I put the glass of wine on the coaster and think nothing of it, right? Well, as I take the last drink of wine, right, I gag it down or whatever, I put the glass back on the coaster, and when I look through the bottom of the glass, there's this, you know, obviously a little bit of red wine in the bottom, but I can see my 2-year-old son at the time looking back at me. I don't know why this hit me so hard, but it did. It really shook me, you know. all the self-talk that I gave myself about, okay, look, Carl, you got to cut this shit out. Like, this is, it's emptying your bank account. You feel like shit. You're argumentative. You're in a bad mood in the morning. Okay, yeah, you get to pass out and you don't lie awake all night. But look, the trade-off here is terrible. When I saw my son at the time, who was like 2 or 3, now he's like 14. Like, please, it was a while back. But when I saw him looking back at me, I thought, Carl, if there's any reason for you to give this shit up, dude, now's the time, right? So anyways, you know what I did? I had that moment of clarity. Any wine in the house, I would have dumped it down the drain. But let's be honest, I poured it down my throat beforehand. So, there's no alcohol in the house. So I was like, okay, cool. You know what? This is it. I'm done. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm heading down a road that too many people head down. And you know what? You've got an opportunity to stop it. So, you know what? Let's just stop it right now, Carl. This is stupid. Okay, so fine. I wake up the next morning. I feel like shit, don't I? Right? And you know what? I go to work, whatever. Because you know what? I always used to drink the night before work because I knew I'd be able to sleep better. Right? Didn't matter how much I felt like shit. So the funny thing is on my days off, I was like, well, I don't really need to drink, but it's my day off, so I should drink, right? It was this vicious cycle where I'm drinking 7 days a week, and I always seem to be able to justify it, or my mind was able to justify it. Now, the thing is, at the time, I never thought it was my mind, because why the hell would my mind want to hurt me, right? This has got to be something else that's making me drink. So anyways, the whole next day, I had this inner dialogue about how I'm not going to buy a bottle of wine. Yeah, I couldn't escape it. All day, that's all I thought about. And this was so much different for me than when I was in the States and I used to drink all the time. Because like I said, I drink all the time and well known for it. But when I didn't drink, I didn't drink. Well, now it's a different game, right? Now I'm thinking about it all the time. So anyways, it started to get around the 3-4 o'clock time. And at the time, I was working 4 on 4 offs. Now our department works 24-hour shifts. But I'm done at 5 o'clock and it's like 3 o'clock. So I'm starting to panic. You know what I'm getting at? Like, it's really weird. Like, I'm like, okay, Carl, you're not going to buy a bottle of wine, but then I'm thinking, oh, God, just, one more day, right? You might as well get a bottle of wine now and then quit after that. Well, guys, I can't tell you the shit kicking that my mind took between the hours of 3 o'clock and when I left at 5. So anyways, my guy comes in for, my relief comes in for work, right? And I tell him everything that's going on with the truck, and that's fine. And, I get in my car and I'm driving home and I'm like, no, I'm not going to get a bottle of wine, not going to get a bottle of wine, not going to get a bottle of wine. And then about halfway home, I don't know, something kicks in and goes, come on, Carl, seriously. Like, how much do you do in life? You don't really do anything, do you? Right? The only form of entertainment you have is your bottle of wine at night. And come on, everybody drinks, Carl. It's no big deal. So all of a sudden, it's like my mind started to kick in and started to, justify why I was getting another bottle of wine. This really confused me. Because consciously, I knew this was bad. But for some strange reason, my mind was coming up with all these reasons for why I should get one. Well, look, guys, as I've said in other episodes, look, if you're going up against your mind, I'm sorry, but your mind's going to win, unless you understand the battlefield you're on. So guess what I did? I pulled into the wine store. Yeah, I did. I pulled into the wine store. I got myself a couple of bottles of wine. I drove home, and I completely justified it. And, as embarrassed as I am, I was actually kind of sad opening up the bottle of wine and pouring it because, I didn't have the willpower to win, did I? And that was such a kick in the pills for me, because I always class myself as a very, very strong person. Somebody who can, overcome things that are difficult. But at that exact moment, I realized that, okay, yes, Carl, you may be a very strong person, but you're also a very weak one too. And that hurt. Like, seriously, that really did a number on me. So the problem is that, yes, okay, I'm suffering with this PTSD, depression, anxiety. I don't even know I'm dealing with it. And whenever I try to better myself, whenever I try to understand what I'm doing is wrong and try to self-correct, it's like my brain won't let me. I thought I was cursed. I did. I felt for some strange reason, all the bad shit that I did in my life was coming back to haunt me now. And that I was now on a self-destructive mode. And even though I knew what I was doing was right, for some strange reason, my brain would jump in and tell me I was wrong, and that I should be doing this other stuff that was bad for me. And I thought I'd crossed over some weird threshold. Let me tell you guys, those were scary times for me. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Yeah, I really thought that I was on, like I said, self-destruct mode, and it was just a matter of time before I wouldn't be able to pull back from it, And I'd end up as one of those really weird statistics that I never thought I would be in that situation, Trust me, this was scarier than the actual PTSD and depression, was the fact that I didn't feel like I had control anymore. you know. And when an individual loses that kind of control, guys, that's the scariest place you can possibly be. So look, guys, this is exactly the stuff that we're going to talk about all week. Okay, this scenario where I actually thought I was self-sabotaging myself, guys, it was because I didn't understand how my brain worked. Yeah, and guys, when we start to understand how our brain works, we can start to understand why our brain does the stuff it does, right? And guys, this is what I cannot wait to bring to you all week. Because guys, listen, if you are suffering with PTSD, depression, or anxiety, guys, the last thing you need now is another fail. You know what I mean? You cannot afford to fail at anything else. And if you do get the gumption to really pull yourself out of this hole because you're starting to recognize, okay, this is a shit show, I don't like this anymore. Look, I want to give you the tools you need to be able to do that, to truly understand why your brain is doing the stuff you do. Because guys, look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know. I couldn't figure out why my brain was doing this. Oh my word, look at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, I try to keep my podcast to about 15 minutes because, guys, I respect how busy your lives are. So yes, I'm afraid my 15 minutes is gone. But guys, look, in the next episode, what we're going to look at is why our brain does the stuff we do even when we're not enjoying it. Yeah, and what we're really going to zero in on is this vicious downward spiral that people get in. Oh my word. Get your seatbelts buckled up because I'll tell you what, it is more than a bumpy ride. I've been on this, and I think the worst part about this vicious downward spiral is when you yourself know you're on a destructive path, but for some strange reason you can't seem to stop the pattern. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember that word, pattern, because that's what we're going to talk about a lot in our next episode. So anyways, guys, listen, if you happen to get a chance and you do enjoy the podcast, why don't you stop by our Facebook Live show? Yes, we run it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page there, PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain. And basically what we do is we take this podcast and, well, I do a Facebook Live show about it. Yes, you know what? I enjoy it quite a bit because then I'm able to get back in the comment section and talk to all you guys about this fascinating subject of PTSD, depression, and anxiety, and how it affects our day-to-day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't let you go without announcing this. Look, if you find you're starting to have problems with this PTSD, depression, or anxiety, or hey, look, let's be honest. Let's say your life is turning into a bag of shit. You can't understand why. Look, I've got a really, really cool place on the internet. It's called The Bunker Room. And what it is, well, it's basically a support group on Facebook there. It's a private group. The only reason it's private because I get to invite people. Oh, I do love that. You know, nothing better than throwing a party and you get to invite everybody. And that's why we do it. But guys, it's also private because you can post whatever you want in there with a little bit of common sense exercise. You know what I'm getting at here. But the fact is you get to see how other people live with this stuff. And I really think perspective is the keys to the kingdom with this PTSD, depression, anxiety, because once your perspective starts to change on life, guys, that's when we can start to see the good shit again. Yeah, because you know that PTSD, depression, anxiety covers it up with a wet blanket. Ooh, it's a bastard. Yeah, I'm telling you, I got no time for it. But I'll tell you, once we understand how the game is played, guys, this is how we can start to move out the other side, isn't it? So anyways, guys, there you have it. We've got an entire week on how the brain, well, it kind of sabotages you a little bit. Not on purpose, don't get me wrong. But when PTSD, depression, anxiety gets in that old noodle of ours and starts messing around with the wiring, trust me, it can get more than confusing. So ladies and gentlemen, let me turn a light on for you. Yes, I think once you truly understand what you're fighting up against, guys, you're going to kick the shit out of this the same way you kick the shit out of everything in life. Good on you. I can't wait to get into this week. So guys, as I always say, if you happen to get a chance, get your running shoes on and get yourself out there for a nice walk. I'll tell you what, it'll do your soul the world of good. Thanks so much for stopping by. Take care now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast. Gain more knowledge by going to ptsdbunkergearforyourbrain.com. While you're there, subscribe and comment. Join us next time for the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast.